you remember that we are in a series of the Bible books. Like we picked three Bible books. We covered Exodus, and we talked about the themes in Exodus. We talked about, Genesis, Exodus, and today we are going to be talking about Leviticus, a wonderful book with a wonderful speaker, Maryan, that she's going to present it to us. And again, the idea is to really give us an outline, an overview about the book. Sometimes we get into the details, but we need both. We need the details, and we also need the kind of the bird view, the outline, the theme, so that we can understand. Many times we understand better if we know the big themes, and when we read the details, we plug them into the themes so that we really understand and benefit, because themes repeats. God's dealing with us repeats. God dealing with the people back then is the same as God's dealing with us today, is the same as God's dealing with the people in the future, and with us, of course, when we grow in the future. So it's very helpful, and the idea is hopefully that it motivates us to read these books. So how many finished the book? We had a competition, kind of a competition, or whoever finishes the book will get a nice prize. Who finished the book of Exodus during last week? One. Anyone else? شكل واحد بس اللي هياخد كل حاجة. Anyone else? Okay, so I'm gonna check by the end of the meeting. Maybe new people will come. Maybe they would finish it, and we'll see. If you're tempted with the prize, maybe you consider this for the next week if you read the book of Leviticus. So the coming week, it is about the book of Leviticus. So please join me in welcoming Maryan as she leads us through the book of Leviticus.
Hi everyone. Okay, we're gonna do a little bit of an overview. Okay, and I'm gonna give you guys like a link to a video I found really helpful in sort of like understanding the outline of the book. And then we're gonna focus in on sort of one of the main themes that were highlighted in multiple resources about the book of Leviticus. Okay, so give me a moment as I open up. So let's first start off with what do we know about the book of Leviticus? Sorry? Lots of laws. Excellent. Yes, very good. What else? In the desert. In the deserts, yes. Great setting. Lots of laws in the desert. What a wonderful start. What else? What's the meaning of the book? Like of the name of the book? What does it refer to? Levi. Levi, like the priest, the brother of Moses. Brother of Moses? Yeah. Or like the family of Levi, I apologize. Okay. What else? Or the tribe of Levi, I should say. What else? Anything else? Okay. All right. Good. What's the book before it?
Exodus.
Good. Great. What's the book after it?
Numbers.
Excellent. Very good. Perfect. Okay. Good. We're going to read the first verse of the book of Leviticus. Can someone open the first verse? Yeah.
Oh, now the Lord called to Moses and spoke to him from the tabernacle of meeting, saying.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you very much. Perfect. So, how does it start? How does it start? Good. From where?
Tabernacle.
Very good. Okay. Go then, if you would, to the first verse of the book of Numbers.
George Strong will on this for the WFP.
Yeah, me
It's
too.
an ad in the
لا
Bible.
لا ده أخون you.
It's in the ad.
That's bad. All right. What's the first verse of the book of Numbers?
I'm scared to open it.
No,
This ad
خلاص.
is gonna play.
Do you have Coptic reader? Open.
Oh yeah,
Coptic
I do. It's on
Coptic
there.
reader ما
Okay.
فيهوش اي اد ولا اي حاجه
Okay,
يعني.
okay, okay.
So عايز تعمل ad عادي like.
No, 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 no.
Just an easy way.
Alright, who wants to read the first verse?
Now the Lord spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai in the tabernacle of meeting on the first day of the second month in the second year after they had come out of the land of Egypt, saying.
Excellent. Thank you. How does the book of Numbers start?
Same thing about a year later.
Okay, very good. And there's another difference. So same thing,
Oh, there are numbers.
almost the exact same thing, but it's a year later and there's a lot more numbers. But there's also a fundamental difference in the sentence. Look at both verses again. It's like pick the differences. It's a game of pick the differences.
Mhm.
In the tabernacle,
In the tabernacle as opposed to,
In the wilderness.
no, there's the tabernacle is mentioned in both.
from the tabernacle.
From the tabernacle. Okay, so the first one, like Leviticus, says from the tabernacle, and Numbers says in the tabernacle. Okay? Leviticus is the journey for moving Moses and the people of Israel from being called, they're outside the tabernacle and the Lord is inside the tabernacle and he's calling from, to Moses as being a representative of the people of Israel being in the tabernacle in the presence of the Lord. That's the story of the book of Leviticus. Okay? And that's part of why it has so many laws. And we're going to talk about that. Okay? So, we're going to go to and read one more verse before we start. And it's Leviticus chapter 19, verse 2.
Leviticus.
Chapter 19, verse 2. If anyone has it, they can start reading it out loud.
Yeah.
Go ahead, yes.
Speak to all the congregation of the children of Israel and say to them, you shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy.
Thank you. You shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. That is the thesis, the main theme, the main purpose of the book of Leviticus. And it's the sort of title of the journey that the people take so that they join from outside the tabernacle to inside the tabernacle. Okay? So, let's first talk about the division of the book of Leviticus, and then we're going to sort of return to this theme of holiness, and we're also going to talk about a theme that is a subset of this theme of being holy, okay? So, the book of Leviticus is how many chapters?
27.
Excellent, okay. The first 7 chapters involve the first set of rules, okay? And it's all about sacrifices. It's all about sacrifices. And there are 5 kinds of sacrifices that are described. 5 kinds of sacrifices that people can offer to God. Okay? 2 of them are sacrifices to say thank you. 2 of them are sacrifices. And 3 of them are sacrifices to say I'm sorry. 2 are to say thank you, 3 are to say I'm sorry. Okay? Those are the first 7 chapters. Alright? And in our talk later on, as we move on, we're going to talk about the meanings of each of these sacrifices a little bit more, the symbolic meaning. Okay? Questions so far? خلصنا 7 chapters يا جماعة. Alright. And then the 3 that say I'm sorry seem to always involve some sort of burning or some sort of animal sacrifice. Okay? Keep that just in the back of your mind. ماشي? Okay. Then what? So that's, and I'm gonna divide it, like sort of my resource divided it. That's the beginning of the book. The end of the book contains feasts, okay? So holidays of the Jewish people. How many holidays are there? You want to take a guess? It's a common number. We also have a similar number. 7, perfect, okay. There are 7 of them, okay? There are 7 feasts that are sort of given by God to the people of Israel. And the idea behind those 7 feasts, they have their different sort of significances, but the idea is part of holiness is the celebratory nature of our relationship with God. God Himself wants to celebrate different instances in our lives and different sort of milestones in our lives with us. Okay? ماشي. So احنا كده talked about 1 to 7 and we talked about 23 to 25. Alright, احنا قلنا هما كام أصلا؟ 27. Okay. So then we move on to 8 to 10. Chapters 8 to 10. About 1 to 7, all the sacrifices, then 8 to 10. What happens in 8 to 10? The priests are ordained. The book is called Leviticus, might as well mention the priests. The priests are ordained. What tribe are the priests ordained from? Levi. Amazing, hence the name of the book. Excellent, okay. And there seems to be a concept within the sort of ordination that this is a sort of consecration to God. Like the tribe of Levi is consecrated to God. And in essence, as this consecration happens, it's on a mini scale what's happening to the people, and on an even, like if you go even bigger with the circle, it's what's happening to everyone who's called by God, okay? So it's like a very focused dose, as it were, of what God is trying to do to everyone else, okay? So the priests sort of are interesting in terms of like in the book of Leviticus, and they're interesting because they are representatives of two things. They are symbols of two things. They are two sides of a same coin, okay? They are representatives of the people in front of God, and they are representatives of God in front of people, okay? And so they are the center of this book's call to holiness, okay? Because not only do they represent the people in front of God, so they really have to do their best to sort of abide by the call of the book, but they also represent the holiness of God to people. So they are teachers of these laws. They are also practitioners of this law, etc. But a problem happens. A problem happens once the tribe of Levi is consecrated to God, or once the priests are ordained. Does anyone know what happens? There's a bit of a disastrous situation that happens to Aaron and his family once they are consecrated, or shortly after. Okay. Two of the sons of Aaron are like, well, cool, we're priests now. So they just enter the tabernacle of God, sort of like throwing every single law that was just put in, like behind their backs. We're priests, so we're going in. Alright? Complete like neglect, complete lack of respect, complete lack of like sanctity or sanctification for this place. They just like, we're priests, okay? And God does not take very kindly to that. And a big lesson is taught where these people seem to like sort of be consumed on the spot or die on the spot by the holiness of God. And in that instance, another lesson gets taught by God about holiness. Remember, He said, "Be holy because I, the Lord your God, am holy." And He's like, this whole book is about this transition from like outside the tabernacle to inside it. This lesson is holiness, or this sort of sanctification, or this sort of like God. الأول ثواني, sorry. What is holiness? احنا بنقول holiness كتير. What is holiness? What is it to be holy?
To be disciplined.
Okay, to be disciplined. Yes, that's part of it. Yes. What else?
Sin and repent.
Good, okay. Yeah, what does it mean though that we're called to be holy and that God Himself is holy? right? What is holy? Like the very depth of holiness. What is it? Like as a definition, as a word.
I would look at it as like good.
Okay, goodness.
Yeah.
Good. This like purity or
Perfect, yeah,
goodness, like
purity.
perfect purity or perfect goodness. Yes. Good.
Sacred.
Sacred. Good. Like it's almost like a setting apart. Holiness is a setting apart, okay? And in that setting apart, there's this perfect. It's set apart because it's perfectly pure. Whatever is holy is perfectly good and is perfectly pure. And so by nature of that, it is set apart from everything else around. Okay? And that's the call of the book. Just so we're clear on the meanings of the words as we described. Okay, pop quiz. First 7 chapters, what are they talking about?
Sacrifices.
Very good. And then there's a bit near the end that we talked about. Which chapters were they?
23.
Very good. What did they talk about? Very good. 7, how many feasts? Very good. Okay. And then 3 chapters that talk about ordination of priests. What are they? Very good. Okay. All right. Any thoughts or comments thus far? How many chapters have we covered so far?
12.
لا ايه الماث غريب ده
7 or 9.
لا خالص
23.
كده ابتديت اقلق 23 ميرسي excellent 23 ازاي
13
برضه
13
كده احنا ملخبطة 13 خلاص 23
From the 7 celebrations.
yes
From what to
23 to 25
Oh, so there's 3.
23 to 25.
بس 23 ل 25 خلاص اتفقنا
13.
13 خلاص final answer okay good all right okay we're gonna go back to the division of the book. Mind you, the quiz gets harder near the end, okay? But the book is divided sort of around the main theme in the middle of the book, which is why we're doing the beginning and the end like this, okay? All right. Chapters 21 to 22. What are they about? They're about the qualifications of the priest. Okay? So 8 to 10 on one side is the ordination of the priest, and 21 to 22 on the other side are qualifications of the priest, okay? What are priests supposed to do, okay? And how are they supposed to be sanctified and supposed to be holy to carry out their mission of representing the people to God and representing God to the people. كده عملنا كام chapter? 15. على فكرة 20s لميا معاك قوي هناك مش حاجة مقلقة.
في حد بيعمل counting كويس هنا.
I'm listening.
Excellent. Where do the sons of Aaron die? Where do the 2 sons of Aaron die? Which chapters?
8 to 10.
Amazing. شوف 10 keys right. Okay. All right. So thus far, is the story fun or is the story kind of like scary? I don't know, like I've just told you 15 of a 27 book like chapter book.
You made it fun.
طب وبعدين though, like is it like what's the feel of the book?
Well, a lot of it is like, from what so far,
Yes.
it's like lessons on how we should like live, and you know how
Yeah.
basically, you know, like
Okay.
the sacrifices and
Yes.
the priests and the ordination
Right. We've
and
learned
the
how.
feasts. and
Yes, exactly.
It's like a lot of like how we should.
What we should do.
Yeah.
There seems to be a lot of we doing
Yeah,
things.
like God
Okay.
telling us what we should do.
Perfect. Perfect.
It also seems to me like a church life.
Yes. Yes.
So it's like a feast, and of course we don't do sacrifices, but
Right.
we have only one sacrifice.
Yes.
But like the feast, and so kind of the church life.
Yes.
The people, the priest, and so forth.
The manual of the worship life.
The worship, yes.
What are you gonna do to make this work?
Mm.
Perfect. ماشي. Any other thoughts? طيب. Okay. All right. Okay. Then chapters 11 to 15 come up. Chapters 11 to 15. بلاش انت تعبت. All right. So 11 to 15 talks about um, ritual purity. Okay? Remember in the New Testament where everyone is asking Jesus, why didn't you wash your hands? Why are you sitting with this person? Why didn't you wash your feet? حاجات كتير كده like that seem really like complicated. Yeah, that's the ritual purity. Okay? What was the point? Let's say some examples of ritual purity. A person is impure when?
You sin.
Okay, yes, although this does not make it into ritual purity. So ritual purity is like not a sinful state. So ritual impurity, like a person being ritually impure, is not a sinful state.
So like when the woman was on the cycle kind of.
Right, okay, so menstruation, good. What else?
Any bodily discharges,
Good.
I think, was considered as impure.
Very good. Especially like reproductive discharges, and we're going to talk about why that's relevant. Good. What else? So let me give you a story from the New Testament, and then you guys tell me. Christ stops the son of the widow of Nain and like touches the body,
Oh, the dead. Oh,
touching
yeah.
a dead body. Okay, all right, and also like some food rules go into all of this. Although like we'll go into all the kosher rules. Okay, what's up with all the touching stuff? Like I don't know, like this is part of life. What's up with that being impure? Yeah, like I don't know, like if a friend dies or a family member dies, am I not supposed to like care for them? What's up with that?
Well, there's a chance for like lust.
Interesting. So that's an interesting point, but it's not. It does not seem to be how the book is concerned about it. Like the book is concerned about it literally just from like you do this, you're unclean. No matter like what your thoughts were, no matter what your intentions were, it's just like you're unclean.
It's it sounds like cross contamination. They don't want to touch one thing and then touch
Yeah.
something else
Excellent.
that is pure.
Good. Very good. The idea of cross contamination. Whenever you enter like what's called like a sterile field or a clean field, what you're supposed to do is you're not supposed to touch something that's unclean and touch the clean. It's not that it's morally wrong, it's just that you're not respecting the cleanliness or the sterility of the place you're going into. Okay? So God wanted to instill the idea of holiness as being set apart, not only on the moral or spiritual level, but also on the physical level.
Mhm.
And these things became relevant, like why it was relevant to mention all of these, is because they were representative of death or of loss of life. Loss of life, right? Or the potential for life being lost. That being touched was a reminder to the people that death and holiness, death and God do not meet. They don't mix, right? There is no presence of death in the presence of God. And so they were not sinning by being ritually impure, but rather they needed to be reminded you cannot have touched or interacted with death and stand in the presence of God. Okay? And it was a reminder that carries a symbolic importance. Can anyone sort of like link this point to its symbolic importance to the understanding of salvation? يعني كمية like هري حصلت like كمية it's like so complex and it's like why are you doing this? This is just a part of my life. Why are you making this so difficult? What's his point? Like what's the lesson?
The lesson about why we can't do these things.
Yes, what's the lesson about death not mixing in the presence of God or not possible to appear in the presence of God? Why did God make a point of that?
I mean, it kind of seems like foreshadowing in a way.
Good. In what way?
I mean, the incarnation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Am I warm here?
Yeah, you're very warm. You're very
Yeah,
warm.
it
Good.
seems kind of obvious, but
But it's not quite.
yeah, It's not that simple, huh?
No, no,
Yeah.
you're very warm, you're
Yeah.
very close.
You're getting far.
So let me tell you a different story. I wanna
Yeah.
remind you guys of a story. Adam, Eve, don't eat of this tree
Mhm.
or you will die.
Mhm.
And what happens?
Get expelled.
Good. They eat of the tree, and so now there's corruption in them, and so they cannot stand in the presence of God.
Yeah.
And so God creates a daily reminder in everyone's life, in the people of Israel,
Yeah.
that death does not stand in his presence. This becomes so ingrained in a Jewish mind
Mhm.
that the concept of death becomes almost like a juxtaposition to who God is.
Yeah.
God is life, and death is a completely separate entity that cannot exist in the presence of God. Right? The separation is clear.
Yeah.
Alright? And that was important for our understanding of salvation, because the link that gets this corruption to be able to stand in the presence of God is Christ himself, is God himself.
Mhm.
Right? So that's why the distinction becomes so important to establish in the mind of the people of Israel on a daily basis. Okay. Any questions about this part? So this part is purely physical, purely ritual stuff. Like it's literally like sanitize your hands, wash your hands. That's what he's saying. But he's saying it in like every single part of their life that and he links it to purity. He doesn't say like stay clean and stuff. Like he links it to purity and he links it to standing in his presence. You cannot stand in God's presence being impure. Right?
Yeah.
Okay? Alright.
Uh,
Yes.
I have kind of two observations.
Yes,
Like
please.
I like that it's specifically ritual purity, which is
Yes.
different from a state of sin.
Yes.
So it's ritual purity. It's not that I'm in a state of sin, but it is I am not in readiness
Yes.
to approach God.
Yes.
And also what you said kind of remind me with COVID.
Yes.
What
yes.
we were doing during COVID,
Yeah.
like if you shake someone's hand, I have to go sanitize my hand.
Yes.
If I touch this, I have to go sanitize my hand. If I do this, I have to go wash my hand or sanitize
Yes.
my hand. So it's kind of maybe COVID made it more, at least to me, any kind of more relevant that it is kind of I'm doing every effort not to get this COVID virus one way or another.
Yes.
So I'm doing in the book of Leviticus, I'm doing every effort that I do not have any kind of death
Yes.
in this way.
Yes.
Does this make
Exactly.
sense?
Exactly. Yes. That's and Abuna, as you were talking, actually, it brought out the irony of the Pharisees or the Pharisees talking to Christ and saying, "Well, why are you not ritually pure?"
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting as you read it because he's the one link that can link both of these things and remain uncorrupt.
Mm-hmm.
Like remain complete. Like he's the one person who, like the laws of Leviticus, can bring us from outside the tabernacle into it. So it like every time now like that these verses come up, it's like that's funny. It's almost like God is indirectly reminding us, I'm the link. I'm the link between the two. Yeah, COVID. Alright. Okay, excellent. So, we talked quite a bit then about the concept of purity and impurity. Now, how about other kinds of impurity? Are there other kinds of impurity? Gemma, there are. Like اللي هي الimpurity اللي احنا like we know, like the impurity that we sort of think about. What? So we talked about the ritual impurity, which seems like almost like laws of hygiene. I did say we'll go back to the kosher food thing. There are theories out there. I do not know at all why. I could not find a source that sort of agreed as to why these foods were okay or not okay. Looking at them like sort of like just from outside, some of the foods that were sort of prohibited would have been difficult to maintain without fridges and would have been rather detrimental to people's health, like from a health perspective. But like sort of the symbolic nature of these things, I am not aware at all. Okay? Just sort of to address that. If anyone is aware or has read about like what they mean or what they signify, please do share it. Like
Like pork?
Yeah, like pork or like shrimp or shellfish or like, certain animals.
I'll be honest, I just thought the pork thing was
Yeah.
because, the pigs played in the pen and dirty and filthy.
Sure.
I thought that was something, I mean,
Something
the
else that's
refrigeration
cleaner.
kinda makes sense too.
Yeah,
The parasites and
Yeah, that makes a lot of
I,
sense.
I really like do not know, but they make it into the chapters of ritual purity. Okay, God does not say they make you in some way spiritually unclean, but rather that they're ritually impure.
Yeah.
Don't mix dairy and milk and
Right, don't
red meat.
mix, which also has like
Yeah.
scientific value for that time with no refrigeration of either of these things. Okay, how many chapters have we done?
19.
Excellent. Are they 19?
20. 20.
Okay, nrega بقى. نرجع. Sacrifices can chapters what to what?
1 to 7.
Excellent. How many were there?
7.
لا.
No.
Trick question. How, 5. Good. How many were to say what and how many were to say what?
2 for
Two
sorry.
thank you, 3 sorry.
يعني 2 ايه؟
Thank you.
Oh.
2 thank yous ماشي with 3
Three
sorry. Good. Okay. What was next? So that's 1 to 7.
Okay, 8 to 10 was the priest.
8 to 10 was the ordination of the priest, and who died in 8 to 10?
Aaron's
Aaron's
kids.
Why?
Because they're too conceited.
Right, and yeah, and they did not respect the sanctity of the tabernacle. Good, okay. Then what?
23 to 25.
Good.
Was a feast.
The
Very
feast.
good, very good. And how many were those?
7.
Very good, okay. كده احنا قد كام؟ بنتعب أوي في النقطة دي.
13.
Very good, okay. And then what else?
22 to 20.
21 to
21.
Very good, okay. Were what?
Qualifications of the priest.
Qualifications of the priest. Excellent. And they were what? Representatives of, there's this whole double-sided
People,
city.
people to God.
Good. People to God and God to people. Okay, good. Okay, then we're Cam chapter
15.
15. Amazing. What else? How many other chapters have we talked about?
11 to 15.
Very good. How many are those?
4.
لا 5 يا جماعة.
5.
يعني okay.
11.
بنعيد أول واحد عشان تنسونا. عشان نسوي subtraction. Okay. All right. 5. 5. What are they talking about? What are they talking about? The 5.
Impurity.
What kind of
ritual.
ritual impurity? And it's about the separation between what and God?
Death.
Death and God. Okay, very good. يبقى احنا كام chapter بقى؟
20.
20.
20.
No, 22 chapters?
No. We still have 16 to 20.
أيوة.
And then we still have 26 and 27.
Amazing.
So 7.
Amazing.
We still have 20.
All right.
Covered
So
20.
We're gonna talk about chapters 18 to 20. So remember, the book is walking side by side on both ends, and then there's a central theme, we said. 18 to 20. What does it talk about, Ba? We talked about ritual impurity. Then, 18 to 20 is about?
Ritual purity?
Moral or spiritual purity. Excellent. Very good. بسيطة. All right. So what were they called for? They were called to 3 major themes. They were called to care for the poor, unlike other nations around them at that time, who, for the most part, neither cared for the poor because they were not contributory to society, nor they're sick, right? So care for the poor, social justice, which kind of like goes hand in hand with that, and sexual integrity. Okay, those were the 3 themes of moral purity.
Can you repeat them again?
Okay, sexual integrity, social justice, and caring for the poor.
سهلة جدا.
بسيطة.
جدا.
Okay,
ما شاء الله.
excellent. All right, then we reach بقى almost like the peak or sort of like the highest point of the story. Come on in, come join the fun. There's a lot of pop quizzes happening here. Math skills not required, obviously.
For now. This is a trick statement.
All right. Okay. Chapters 16 to 17. Central chapters. Central chapters. Right between the books about ritual purity and the books about moral purity. In between them, God puts our highlights, one of the major sort of days in the Jewish calendars. What is it? It's the Day of Atonement.
Yom Kippur.
All right? Yom Kippur. What is the Day of Atonement? It comes up in the New Testament. But what is the Day of Atonement? What is atonement, first of all? I'm going to take guesses. What's atonement? Yeah.
To remove your sins, kind of.
Sorry, to?
Remove your sins.
To remove your sins,
Yeah.
yes. Yes. And it has another part associated with. Yeah. So there's almost like a sense of payment involved in atonement, okay? So for instance, I just made fun of your math counting skills, okay? And so to atone for, for this error or for this mistake, I must come and say sorry and perhaps make fun of my own mistake. I don't know. But atonement involves not only a saying of sorry, but also a sense of payment such that this issue that is between us is now resolved. Okay? Alright, so what is the Day of Atonement, Bardan? We understand now what atonement is. What is the Day of Atonement? The Day of Atonement was about the concept that most likely, as people tried to say sorry through how many sacrifices? لا مش 5 خالص. Thank you. كانوا 2 منهم. 3. As they tried to say sorry through 3 of the sacrifices, they wouldn't catch everything, okay? Some sins might fall through, some sins they may not remember, etc. And so, because the book is about standing in the holiness of God and being present in the holiness of God, God put a way for the people to atone, which is to say sorry, and to pay some sort of thing for their sins. God made an atonement plan. But it's interesting, because the atonement was almost was given by God, but makes almost no sense. So let me give you another example. Say I hit your car, okay? Say God forbid. And then I come out and give you a flower. No? Exactly. Have I done anything? I haven't fixed your car, have I? Have not made you feel exceptionally better, right? But I've given you a flower. And you are totally cool with that. That's what the Day of Atonement sort of has. It has this sense of a sin that's not necessarily, for instance, killing. It might be getting angry at your brother or at your parents or whatever, right? And then to atone for it, God gives this interesting ritual, okay? And the ritual involves 2 goats. How many goats? 2. One of them is presented to God for atonement, to say we're sorry, okay? And that's presented to God. And it's burnt up as offering, as though it burns away people's sins. And the other goat, the priest puts his hand on the goat, sort of lays the sins of Israel on the goat, and kicks the goat out of the land of Israel. Literally asks it to leave the land of Israel. They leave it, they make it go away. They make it leave. They exile the goat. They literally kick it out. What the heck? What the heck just happened? Let's divide it, okay? So let's first talk about a verse. We're going to read a verse that may help clear some things. Leviticus 17, verse 11. Anyone who has it can start reading.
For the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you upon the altar to make an atonement for your souls, for it is the blood that makes atonement for the soul.
Excellent. I have given it for you. I have given it to you for atonement, right?
For your souls.
For your souls. I have given it to you for atonement for your souls. Remember the flour for the car accident situation? The blood in and of itself alone of the goat carries no meaning other than the meaning that God has imparted on it. And he has given the meaning to that blood for atonement in symbol, in preparation for blood that is to come. Okay? And so for the people of Israel, there are very clear concepts. We talked about one of them being death and God don't mix, they don't stand together. There's also a concept of holiness is being set apart. And then there's this concept that God gives that blood is given by God as atonement for sins. Okay? What about the goat that's let go? Because that goat is not killed. What about that one? What's up with that?
Forgiving the sins.
Sorry?
Forgive the sins.
Okay.
Kind of choice.
Maybe but forgive the sins was the goat that was just killed and burnt on the altar.
Like you already forgot the sins you have made. Maybe
So
shwaya.
interesting. Shwaya, that's it.
Yeah.
There's, remember how the blood of the first goat is a symbol of blood that's to come? Who else was exiled from his own land or was like sort of led out?
Oh, Jesus.
Jesus himself was led out, okay? And so the goat or the lamb then, like the goat pointing to the lamb that's to come, that carries the sins of the world was also led out of his own city for the sake, Bardo, of atonement for the people of Israel or for us all that. The Day of Atonement is the central focus of the book of Leviticus, okay? And it's the central focus afterwards of many of the letters written by the apostles to explain the Christian faith to people, all right? There seems to be a centrality to the salvinic nature or the nature that gives salvation of the blood in Christianity and in the Jewish mind. So the Jewish mind associated blood spilled, especially innocent blood spilled, with sins being forgiven. And so there was so much preparation in this concept for Christ coming for our own salvation. Let's read a few verses or a couple of verses from the New Testament that point at the exact same thing. So we're going to read Ephesians chapter 1 verse 7. And if someone can read it out loud. Ephesians chapter 1 verse 7.
In him we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of sins, according to the riches of his grace.
Excellent. In him we have redemption through his blood, buddy, through the richness of his grace, for our sins.
The forgiveness of sins.
Yeah.
According to the riches of
According
his
to the, again, the concept that forgiveness being given through Christ's blood is a work of grace on God's part. Is a work of like accepting something or giving us something. He's basically literally giving us the way to forgive our sins. Just like in Leviticus, he gave the blood as a way for atonement of sins to remind us of the sacrifice that's to come. Or to point everyone to like when you see this sacrifice, this one living true sacrifice, that's what all the prep has been for. Okay? Alright. We're gonna read another verse and it's gonna be Matthew chapter 26 verse 28.
I just have a question.
Of course.
The atonement in
Yes.
Leviticus, was it
Yeah.
16 to 17 or 26 to 27?
It was 16 to 17, right in the middle.
So what, okay. So
And they said 26 to 27, and I appreciate the concentration that got you to ask that question. Thank you.
No, I got confused.
برضو بس يعني 26 to 27 فضلي. 16 to 17 is right in the middle of the book, and it's like the central theme of the book.
Okay.
Matthew 26, verse 28. 28 I said, yeah. Anyone?
For this is my blood of the new covenant, which is shed for many for the remission of sins.
Heard from the man himself. Thank you very much. Alright? So we've worked on it, we've tried to understand the interpretations. St. Paul has really tried to explain it. Heard from God himself. Okay? So the centrality of Christ's blood to our salvation is sort of almost like what the whole Bible revolves around. Just like on a minor scale is what Leviticus sort of goes around, right? How do I move you from outside the tabernacle and I'm inside to inside the tabernacle at the beginning of Numbers is through the sort of central theme. Okay? What's 26 to 27 then? It's about keeping the covenant of God. It's about Moses telling the people, guys, you've heard it all. Couldn't have explained it more than this. Keep the covenant. Otherwise, it's going to be a disaster. Like that's literally what he says for 2 chapters. Please listen to the covenant and abide by it. Otherwise, it becomes disastrous and you lose your land and you get exiled, which kind of happens, which we kind of do as well, right? But that's Leviticus. Oh, McKenna Kim chapter.
27.
What's the central theme of Leviticus?
Holiness.
Holiness. Very good. Okay. All right. How is it divided? What's the first division? Sorry? Sacrifices. Very good. How many of them are there?
3.
5.
No, it's 5. 3.
5 sacrifices.
5 sacrifices, again. 2 to say thank you, and 3 to say sorry. And they come in how many chapters?
7 chapters.
Very good, the first 7. Then, we have chapters 8 to 10. What's it about? Very good. And who dies?
Aaron's sons.
2 sons of Aaron. Why?
They didn't respect the sanctity.
Exactly, they ignored the rule, okay? They ignored the lessons of the whole book. Okay, what's next?
The limits of the
Very good, what's that about?
Impurity.
Good, what kind of impurity?
Spiritual.
Ritual. Good, okay. And is that a sinful state or not a sinful state?
It's not
Right,
sons.
but it's about division between mean and mean.
God and death.
God and death. Good. Skip the middle, we're gonna go back to it. But what's the middle, Bardo? Bravo. Which chapters is it?
16
To 17. What's the idea?
Shedding blood.
Good. Shedding blood, innocent blood is given by God for atonement of sins. Good. What's next?
18 to 20.
Very good. What's that about?
You tell me.
It's the mirror of what was before the spiritual purity. Good. Okay. And what are the 3 principles?
Oh, sexual.
Integrity.
Good. Sexual integrity.
Caring for the poor.
Good. Caring for the
and
poor.
social
Social
justice.
justice. Amazing. Okay. What's next?
21 and 22.
Very good. What does that say?
That's for the background of the priest.
Very good. Qualifications of the priest. So it mirrors 8 to 10. Excellent. Good. What's next?
23.
23 to 25. The feasts. Amazing. How many of them are there?
7.
Very good. But in 26 to 27?
Keeping the covenant.
Please follow the covenant. We didn't go through all of this, so we don't follow. Good. Alright. Any questions or comments? Or concerns or reflections? Stunned into silence.
So
Etwad.
I have a general question.
Yes.
So because from my understanding, so when the Jews went after Christ for all the things that he did, and they were referring back to Leviticus, he said, I don't remember the exact thing, but he said some of these rituals that you guys came up with, these are man-made. So one of them was, I think, the divorce certificates given to like the man's wife. If he's not happy with her, he would give her this divorce certificate. He's like, yeah, that's you made it up. Is that from Leviticus, or is that, where's that from? I think it was Moses.
I don't recall, but I think Jesus said, "For the hardness of your heart, Moses allowed, but from the beginning he created them, male and female, what God has joined together, let no man separate." So this was kind of saying this was a transition, but what God has joined together, let no man separate. However, maybe what you're referring to is because of there are certain cases like Aaron's son Nadab and Abihu, they made a mistake, they were killed instantly. Breaking the Sabbath, people were killed instantly. So people became fearful and they added extra layers of laws to keep the law. So, like the Sabbath elevator, like what we have today, like not having fire. So they added extra layers. This is what is man-made, is to keep God's commandment. They overdid things just to keep the law, not the spirit of the law. Maybe this is what you mean.
Yeah.
Man-made, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Yes.
What kind of social justice?
What kind of social justice? To be utterly honest, I am not sure. However, let's find out.
Can go to the chapter.
Yeah.
I'm
So
all, I'm all,
it's 18 to 19. Or 18 to 19. 18 to 20.
I'm only mentioning that because,
Yeah.
today a lot of things are blurred.
Right.
About what
Yes.
social justice?
I
I
see.
think it was a lot clearer back then.
Yes.
It was a lot clearer 10 years ago.
Oh,
It was, wasn't it? Yeah, no, I agree.
Touche.
So,
Mm. So that's that. So chapter 18 is about sexual integrity. Chapter 19.
19,
So
11.
The sexual
yeah,
level.
if you go into chapter 19, the second verse has an example. The verses. So we said second verse, chapter 19, and then verses 9 and verses 10 and verses 11. So let's read some of these, okay? So examples of social justice from the book of Leviticus. Speak to all the congregation of the children of Israel and say to them, "You shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. Every one of you shall revere his mother and his father and keep my Sabbaths. I'm the Lord your God." Going to verse 9, he says, "When you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not wholly reap the corners of your field, nor shall you gather the gleanings of your harvest," like not every little bit. "And you shall not glean your vineyard, nor shall you gather every grape of your vineyard. You shall leave them for the poor and the stranger. I'm the Lord your God. You shall not steal, nor deal falsely, nor lie to one another." So that's like part of the, dealings with each other. "You shall not swear by my name falsely, nor shall you profane the name of the Lord your God. You shall not cheat your neighbor, nor rob him. The wages of him who is hired shall not remain with you all night until morning." So not even until the morning should you keep someone's wages. "You shall not curse the deaf," so not just because they can't hear you, you can just like go about like being mean. "Nor put a stumbling block before the blind." So all about that, right? Like caring for the disabled, caring for the stranger, caring for parents, not cheating, keeping the wages of your workers. "You shall not go about a talebearer among your people, nor shall you take a stand against the life of your neighbor. You shall not hate your brother even in your heart. You shall surely rebuke your neighbor and not bear sin because of him." So,
yeah, so these all sound instructional.
yes.
More based on discipline than anything else,
Mm.
right? Make sure you don't, harvest the corners.
Yes.
Treat your parents with
Mhm.
respect, your neighbor.
Mhm.
In verse 15, specifically, you shall do no injustice in judgment. You shall not be partial to the poor.
Yeah.
What's what's your thought? Do you have like, there seems to be a part of that thought that is to come.
Uh, no, I just like how clear and defined it is.
Yes.
Because, you know, when you compare it to the parallels of today,
Yes.
you know, there is no, there's no line.
Yes.
Mhm.
There's no
Gonna
yes
say
and
it was
no
blurred.
anymore.
There's no
Yeah.
blur, there's
No,
no
no,
line,
there's
there's
no line.
nothing. So like, it just, I just like how defined it is. Even like when I was a kid, society
Yeah.
operated under like a universal mandate, treat people with respect
Yeah.
and do this and do that, and
Yeah.
things seem very universal,
Yes.
unspoken, unwritten rules,
Yeah.
kind of. Now, there's a lot of, if you're not with me, you're kind of against me.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
they say you'll respect,
Mhm.
but they,
Yeah.
you know, they immediately take that and turn it around
Yeah.
like you are whatever
Yeah.
blank, you know. So I kind of just like, I like how this is not twisting anything. It's
Yeah,
very
you're
defined.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just like
No,
it for its simplicity.
yeah, I think, and that's a side commentary, but I think in the name of like tolerance nowadays, we've sort of destroyed the rules of love.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like, if I love someone, I need to sort of like be clear about what's right and wrong and how we should interact with each other.
Yeah.
And I think in the name of tolerance, we've let a lot of those go. So you're right. Truth is often clear
Yeah.
and for the most part simple.
Mhm.
Yeah. There's I read something the other day about it's hard to be tolerant with the intolerant, and
Mhm.
there's some sort of I forgot what the word they use, but it's kind of difficult to
Yeah.
balance the two.
And
Right?
and the fact of the matter is, we're not even called to tolerance at all. We're called to love.
Yeah.
I I don't know what about the
Even
tolerance
if you
thing, like,
disagree on principles,
yeah.
it seems like a very universal thing. But then
Yeah.
then if you're not with them, then they're saying
I know.
you're opposed to love or whatever. Yeah.
The-
No, I'm not going to share my
Yeah,
my
like
open
you
opinion
said, the
on that.
lines are not blurred. The lines
Yeah.
seem non-existent.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyways, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
Other thoughts, reflections, questions?
Thank you, Marianne. This was wonderful and amazing to memorize the book of Leviticus, which is one of the very, very, very challenging books that we usually read. We don't understand what is the meaning of this, what is the meaning of that. But things right now have been made much easier. Thank you, Marianne, for even helping us memorize it, all of it in this way. I hope this is an invitation, and I'm extending the invitation to read the book of Leviticus during this week. So, anyone, last week we took the book of Exodus. Anyone got a chance to read the book of Exodus fully during last week? I have one, Ilaria. Anyone else? So, Ilaria, as